November acceptance/amor fati November 1st accepting what is. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, then your life will flow well. Epictetus, Enchiridion, 8. It is easy to praise Providence for anything that may happen if you have two qualities, a complete view of what has actually happened in each instance and a sense of gratitude. Without gratitude, what is the point of seeing, and without seeing, what is the object of gratitude? Epictetus, Discourses, 1.6.1, 2. Omething happened that we wish had not. Which of these is easiest to change, our opinion or the event that is past? The answer is obvious. Accept what happened and change your wish that it had not happened. Stoicism calls this the art of acquiescence, to accept rather than fight every little thing. And the most practiced Stoics take it a step further. Instead of simply accepting what happens, they urge us to actually enjoy what has happened, whatever it is. Nietzsche, many centuries later, coined the perfect expression to capture this idea, amor fati, a love of fate. It's not just accepting, it's loving everything that happens. To wish for what has happened to happen is a clever way to avoid disappointment because nothing is contrary to your desires. But to actually feel gratitude for what happens, to love it, that's a recipe for happiness and joy. November 2nd, binding our wishes to what will be, but I haven't at any time been hindered in my will, nor forced against it. And how is this possible? I have bound up my choice to act with the will of God. God wills that I be sick, such is my will. He wills that I should choose something, so do I. He wills that I reach for something, or something be given to me, I wish for the same. What God doesn't will, I do not wish for. Epictetus, Discourses, April 1, 89. When General Dwight D. Eisenhower wrote to his wife on the eve of the invasion of Normandy, he told her, "Everything we could think of has been done, the troops are fit, everybody is doing his best. The answer is in the lap of the gods." He'd done everything he could, and now, what would happen, and as Epictetus might say, he was ready to bear whatever that was. In fact, Eisenhower had written another letter that night and prepared it for release in case the invasion failed. If failure was what God or fate or luck or whatever you want to call it willed, he was ready. There is a wonderful lesson there. The man in charge of perhaps the most powerful army the world had ever assembled, on the eve of the most expertly organized and planned invasion the world will hopefully ever know, was humble enough to know that the outcome ultimately belonged to someone or something bigger than him. And so it goes with all our ventures. No matter how much preparation, no matter how skilled or smart we are, the ultimate outcome is in the lap of the gods. The sooner we know that, the better we will be. November 3rd, following the doctor's orders. Just as we commonly hear people say the doctor prescribed someone particular riding exercises, or ice baths, or walking without shoes, we should in the same way say that nature prescribed someone to be diseased, or disabled, or to suffer any kind of impairment. In the case of the doctor, prescribed means something ordered to help aid someone's healing. But in the case of nature, it means that what happens to each of us is ordered to help aid our destiny. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 5.8. The Stoics were masters at analogies and used them as a tool to help strengthen their reasoning. Here, Marcus observes how willingly we will put up with unpleasantness if commanded to by the magic words doctor's orders. The doctor says you've got to take this nasty medicine, and you'll do it. The doctor tells you you have to start sleeping hanging upside down like a bat. You'll feel silly, but soon enough you'll get to dangling because you think it will make you better. On the other hand, when it comes to external events, we fight like hell if anything happens contrary to our plans. But what if, Marcus asks, a doctor had prescribed this exact thing as a part of our treatment? What if this was as good for us as medicine? Well, what if? November 4th, not good, nor bad. There is no evil in things changing, just as there is no good in persisting in a new state. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 4.42. When people say change is good, they're usually trying to reassure someone, or themselves. Because instinctively we view change as bad, or at least we're suspicious of it. The Stoics want you to do away with those labels altogether. Change isn't good. The status quo isn't bad. They just are. Remember, events are objective. It's only our opinion that says something is good or bad, and thus worth fighting against or fighting for. A better attitude? To decide to make the most of everything. But to do that you must first cease fighting. November 5th. The higher power. This is the very thing which makes up the virtue of the happy person and a well-flowing life, when the affairs of life are in every way tuned to the harmony between the individual divine spirit and the will of the director of the universe. Chrysippus, quoted in Diogenes Laertius, Lives of the Eminent Philosophers, July 1, 88. In undergoing a 12-step program, many addicts struggle most with step 2, acknowledging a higher power. Addicts often fight this one. At first they claim it's because they're atheists, or because they don't like religion, or because they don't understand why it matters. But they later realize that this is just the addiction talking. It's another form of selfishness and self-absorption. The actual language of the step is pretty easy to swallow. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Subsequent steps ask the addict to submit and let go. The second step really has less to do with God than those other steps, the letting go. It's about attuning to the universe and discarding the toxic idea that we're at the center of it. It's no wonder that the Stoics are popular with those in 12-step programs. It's also clear that this wisdom is beneficial to us all. You don't have to believe there is a God directing the universe, you just need to stop believing that you're that director. As soon as you can attune your spirit to that idea, the easier and happier your life will be, because you will have given up the most potent addiction of all, control. November 6th. Someone else is spinning the thread. If the breaking day sees someone proud, the ending day sees them brought low. No one should put too much trust in triumph, no one should give up hope of trials improving. Clotho mixes one with the other and stops fortune from resting, spinning every fate around. No one has had so much divine favor that they could guarantee themselves tomorrow. God keeps our lives hurtling on, spinning in a whirlwind. Seneca, Thyestes, 613. The novelist Cormac McCarthy was living in a motel room when he heard a knock at the door. It was a messenger. He'd been awarded the MacArthur Genius Grant and $250,000. Unexpected events can be good as well as bad. Who could dream of such an unexpected twist? Who but Clotho, one of the 3 Greek goddesses of fate, who spins the thread of human life? To the ancients, she was the one who decided the course of the events of our lives, some good, some bad. As the playwright Aeschylus wrote, when the gods send evil, one cannot escape it. The same was true for great destiny and good fortune. Their resigned attitude might seem strange to us today, but they understood who was really in control, not them, not us. No amount of prosperity, no amount of difficulty, is certain or forever. A triumph becomes a trial becomes a triumph. Life can change in an instant. Remember, today, how often it does. November 7th. How to be powerful. Don't trust in your reputation, money, or position, but in the strength that is yours, namely, your judgments about the things that you control and don't control. For this alone is what makes us free and unfettered, that picks us up by the neck from the depths and lifts us eye to eye with the rich and powerful. Epictetus, Discourses, 3.26.34, 35. In a scene in Stephen Pressfield's classic novel about Alexander the Great, The Virtues of War, Alexander reaches a river crossing only to be confronted by a philosopher who refuses to move. "This man has conquered the world," one of Alexander's men shouts. "What have you done?" The philosopher responds, with complete confidence, "I have conquered the need to conquer the world." We do know that Alexander did clash with Diogenes the Cynic, a philosopher known for his rejection of what society prizes and, by extension, Alexander's self-image. Just as in Pressfield's fictional encounter, in Diogenes's real confrontation with Alexander, the philosopher was more powerful than the most powerful man in the world because, unlike him, Diogenes had fewer wants. They were able to look each other in the eye and see who really had control over himself, who had achieved the self-mastery required for real and lasting power. You can have that too. It just means focusing inward on acquiring power rather than outward. As Publius, himself a former slave, put it, would you have a great empire? Rule over yourself. November 8th. Actors in a play, remember that you are an actor in a play, playing a character according to the will of the playwright. If a short play, then it's short, if long, long. If he wishes you to play the beggar, play even that role well, just as you would if it were a cripple, a honcho, or an everyday person. For this is your duty, to perform well the character assigned you. That selection belongs to another. Epictetus, Enchiridion, 17. Marcus Aurelius didn't want to be emperor. He wasn't a politician who sought office, and he wasn't a true heir to the throne. As far as we can tell from his letters and from history, what he really wanted was to be a philosopher. But the powerful elite in Rome, including the Emperor Hadrian, saw something in him. Groomed for power, Marcus was adopted and put in line for the throne because they knew he could handle it. Meanwhile, Epictetus lived much of his life as a slave and was persecuted for his philosophical teachings. Both did quite a lot with the roles they were assigned. Our station in life can be as random as a roll of the dice. Some of us are born into privilege, others into adversity. Sometimes we're given exactly the opportunities we want. At other times we're given a lucky break, but to us it feels like a burden. The Stoics remind us that whatever happens to us today or over the course of our lives, wherever we fall on the intellectual, social, or physical spectra, our job is not to complain or bemoan our plight but to do the best we can to accept it and fulfill it. Is there still room for flexibility or ambition? Of course. The history of the stage is littered with stories of bit parts that turned into starring roles and indelible characters that were expanded in future adaptations. But even this begins with acceptance and understanding and a desire to excel at what we have been assigned. November 9th. All is fluid, the universe is change. Life is opinion. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 4.3.4 bin Plutarch's Life of Theseus. He describes how the ship of Theseus, an Athenian hero, was preserved by the people of Athens in battle-ready condition for many centuries. Each time a board decayed, it would be replaced until eventually every stick of wood in it had been replaced. Plutarch asks, is it still the ship of Theseus, or is it a new one? In Japan, a famous Shinto shrine is rebuilt every 23 years. It's gone through more than 60 of those cycles. Is it one shrine, 1,400 years old? Or 60 consecutive shrines? Even the U.S. Senate, given its staggered elections, could be said to have never been fully turned over. Is it the same body formed in the days of George Washington? Our understanding of what something is just a snapshot, an ephemeral opinion. The universe is in a constant state of change. Our nails grow and are cut and keep growing. New skin replaces dead skin. Old memories are replaced by new memories. Are we still the same people? Are the people around us the same? Nothing is exempt from this fluidity, not even the things we hold most sacred. November 10th. Always the same. Think by way of example on the times of Vespasian, and you'll see all these things: marrying, raising children, falling ill, dying, wars, holiday feasts, commerce, farming, flattering, pretending, suspecting, scheming, praying that others die, grumbling over one's lot, falling in love, amassing fortunes, lusting after office and power. Now that life of theirs is dead and gone, the times of Trajan, again the same. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 4.32. Ernest Hemingway opens his book The Sun Also Rises with a Bible verse: one generation passeth, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. The sun also riseth, and the sun goeth down, and resteth to the place where he arose. It was this passage, his editor would say, that contained all the wisdom of the ancient world. And what wisdom is that? One of the most striking things about history is just how long human beings have been doing what they do. Though certain attitudes and practices have come and gone, what's left are people living, dying, loving, fighting, crying, laughing. Breathless media reports or popular books often perpetuate the belief that we've reached the apex of humanity, or that this time, things really are different. The irony is that people have believed that for centuries. Strong people resist this notion. They know that with a few exceptions, things are the same as they've always been and always will be. You're just like the people who came before you, and you're but a brief stopover until the people just like you who will come after. The earth abides forever, but we will come and go. November 11th. It's not the thing, it's what we make of it. When you are distressed by an external thing, it's not the thing itself that troubles you, but only your judgment of it. And you can wipe this out at a moment's notice. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 8.47. I imagine you've dreamed of a life in politics. You're young, you're vigorous, and you've held increasingly powerful positions over the course of your career. Then at 39, you start to feel run down. Your doctors tell you that you have polio and your life will never be the same. Your career is over, right? This is the story of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, now widely regarded as one of America's greatest political leaders. He was, at middle age, diagnosed with polio after spending years preparing for and dreaming about the presidency. It's impossible to understand FDR without understanding this disability. The external thing was that he was crippled. This was a literal fact, but his judgment of it was that it did not cripple his career or his personhood. Though he was certainly the victim of a then incurable disease, he wiped away almost immediately the victim's mentality. Let's not confuse acceptance with passivity. November 12th. The strong accept responsibility. If we judge as good and evil only the things in the power of our own choice, then there is no room left for blaming gods or being hostile to others. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 6.41. Sign on President Harry Truman's desk read: As president, with more power and control than pretty much anyone else, he knew that, good or bad, there wasn't anyone he could blame. The buck stops here for stuff other than himself. There was no one to pass the buck to. The chain ended there, in the Oval Office. As the president of our own lives, and knowing that our powers begin and end with our reasoned choice, we would do well to internalize the same attitude. We don't control things outside that sphere, but we do control our attitudes and our responses to those events, and that's plenty. It's enough that we go into each and every day knowing that there is no one to pass the buck to. It ends with us. November 13th. Never complain, never explain. Don't allow yourself to be heard any longer griping about public life, not even with your own ears. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 8.9. Not only do even the most fortunate of us complain, it often seems like the more fortunate we are, the more time we have to do so. Marcus Aurelius was a reluctant chief executive, just as you might be a reluctant accountant, kid soccer coach, or lawyer. Or perhaps you generally like your job, but you could do without a few of its attendant responsibilities. Where does that thinking get you? Nowhere, other than in a negative state of mind. It calls to mind a motto of British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli: never complain, never explain. He said this because, like Marcus, he knew that the burdens of responsibility were immense. It's so easy to complain about this or that, or to try to make excuses and justifications for the things you've done. But that doesn't accomplish anything, and it never lightens the load. November 14th. You choose the outcome. He was sent to prison. But the observation he has suffered evil, is an addition coming from you. Epictetus, Discourses, 3.8.5b, 6at. His is classic Stoic thinking, as you've gathered by now. An event itself is objective. How we describe it, that it was unfair, or it's a great calamity, or that they did it on purpose, is on us. Malcolm X, then Malcolm Little, went into prison a criminal, but he left as an educated, religious, and motivated man who would help in the struggle for civil rights. Did he suffer an evil? Or did he choose to make his experience a positive one? Acceptance isn't passive. It's the first step in an active process towards self-improvement. November 15th. Everything is change. Meditate often on the swiftness with which all that exists and is coming into being is swept by us and carried away. For substance is like a river's unending flow, its activities continually changing and causes infinitely shifting so that almost nothing at all stands still. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 5.23. Marcus borrows this wonderful metaphor from Heraclitus, who said, "No man steps in the same river twice. Because the river has changed, and so has the man. Life is in a constant state of change. And so are we. To get upset by things is to wrongly assume that they will last. To kick ourselves or blame others is grabbing at the wind. To resent change is to wrongly assume that you have a choice in the matter. Everything is change. Embrace that. Flow with it." November 16th. Hope and fear are the same. Hecate says, "Cease to hope and you will cease to fear." The primary cause of both these ills is that instead of adapting ourselves to present circumstances we send out thoughts too far ahead. Seneca, Oral Letters, 5.7b, 8h. Hope is generally regarded as good. Fear is generally regarded as bad. To a Stoic like Hecate, known as Hecate of Rhodes, they are the same. Both are projections into the future about things we do not control. Both are the enemy of this present moment that you are actually in. Both mean you're living a life in opposition to amor fati. It's not about overcoming our fears but understanding that both hope and fear contain a dangerous amount of want and worry in them. And, sadly, the want is what causes the worry. November 17th. Judge not, lest. When philosophy is wielded with arrogance and stubbornly, it is the cause for the ruin of many. Let philosophy scrape off your own faults, rather than be a way to rail against the faults of others. Seneca, Oral Letters, 103.4b, 5a. Remember, the proper direction of philosophy of all the things we're doing here is focused inward. To make ourselves better and to leave other people to that task for themselves and their own journey. Our faults are in our control, and so we turn to philosophy to help scrape them off like barnacles from the hull of a ship. Other people's faults? Not so much. That's for them to do. Leave other people to their faults. Nothing in Stoic philosophy empowers you to judge them, only to accept them. Especially when we have so many of our own. November 18th. 4 habits of the Stoic mind. Our rational nature moves freely forward in its impressions when it, 1. Accepts nothing false or uncertain, 2. Directs its impulses only to acts for the common good, 3. Limits its desires and aversions only to what's in its own power, 4. Embraces everything nature assigns it. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 8.7. If you notice, Marcus repeatedly reminds himself what Stoicism is. These bullet points are helpful to those of us reading thousands of years later, but really they were intended to be helpful to him. Maybe that day he had accepted a bad impression or had acted selfishly. Maybe he had pinned his hopes on something outside his control or complained and fought against something that had happened. Or maybe it had just been a while since he'd thought about these things and wanted a reminder. Whatever his case was, or whatever ours is today, let's align our minds along these 4 critical habits. 1. Accept only what is true. 2. Work for the common good. 3. Match our needs and wants with what is in our control. 4. Embrace what nature has in store for us. November 19th. Maxims from 3 wise men. For any challenge we should hold 3 thoughts at our command: lead on God and destiny, to that goal fixed for me long ago. I will follow and not stumble, even if my will is weak I will soldier on. Cleanthes. Whoever embraces necessity count as wise, skilled in divine matters. Euripides. If it pleases the gods, so be it. They may well kill me, but they can't hurt me. Pilatos. Crito and Apology. Epictetus, Enchiridion, 53t has 3 quotes compiled by Epictetus show us in wisdom across history the themes of tolerance, flexibility, and, ultimately, acceptance. Cleanthes and Euripides evoke destiny and fate as concepts that help ease acceptance. When one has a belief in a greater or higher power, be it God or gods, then there is no such thing as an event going contrary to plan. Even if you don't believe in a deity, you can take some comfort in the various laws of the universe or even the circle of life. What happens to us as individuals can seem random or upsetting or cruel or inexplicable, when in fact these events make perfect sense when our perspective is zoomed out, even just slightly. Let's practice this perspective today. Pretend that each event, whether desired or unexpected, was willed to happen, willed specifically for you. You wouldn't fight that, would you? November 20th. Behold, now as ever, if you've seen the present, you've seen all things, from time immemorial into all of eternity. For everything that happens is related and the same. Marcus Aurelius, M. Meditations, 6.37 He events that will transpire today are the same as the things that have always occurred. People living and dying, animals living and dying, clouds rolling in and rolling out, air sucked in and sucked out, as it has for eons. This moment right now, to paraphrase Emerson, is a quotation of the moments that have come before and will come ever after. This idea is expressed nowhere more beautifully than in the Christianity hymn Gloria Patri. As it was in the beginning, and now, and always, and to the ages of ages. This thought is not supposed to be depressing or uplifting. It's just a fact. However, it can have a calming, centering effect. No need to get excited, no need to wait on pins and needles. If you haven't seen this before, someone else has. That can be a relief. November 21st. Once is enough, once is forever. A good isn't increased by the addition of time, but if one is wise for even a moment, they will be no less happy than the person who exercises virtue for all time and happily passes their life in it. Chrysippus, quoted by P. Plutarch in M. Oralia, against the Stoics on Com. M. on Conceptions, 1062, Loeb, p. 682, Perhaps wisdom and happiness are like winning a medal in the Olympics. It doesn't matter whether you won 100 years ago or 10 minutes ago, or whether you won just once or in multiple events. It doesn't matter whether someone beats your time or score down the road, and it doesn't matter whether you never compete again. You'll always be a medalist, and you'll always know what it feels like. No one can take that away, and it would be impossible to feel more of that feeling. The Juilliard-trained actor Evan Handler, who not only survived acute myeloid leukemia but also severe depression, has talked about his decision to take antidepressants, which he did for a deliberately brief time. He took them because he wanted to know what true, normal happiness felt like. Once he did, he knew he would stop. He could go back to the struggle like everyone else. He had the ideal for a moment, and that was enough. Perhaps today will be the day when we experience happiness or wisdom. Don't try to grab that moment and hold on to it with all your might. It's not under your control how long it lasts. Enjoy it, recognize it, remember it. Having it for a moment is the same as having it forever. November 22nd. The glass is already broken. Fortune falls heavily on those for whom she's unexpected. The one always on the lookout easily endures. Seneca, on Consolation to Helvia, 5.3 Here is a story of a Zen master who had a beautiful prized cup. The master would repeat to himself, "The glass is already broken." He enjoyed the cup. He used it. He showed it off to visitors. But in his mind, it was already broken. And so one day, when it actually did break, he simply said, "Of course." This is how the Stoics think too. There is supposedly a true story about Epictetus and a lamp. He never locked his house, and so his expensive lamp was stolen. When Epictetus replaced it, he replaced it with a cheaper one so he could be less attached to it if it were stolen again. Devastation, that feeling that we're absolutely crushed and shocked by an event, is a factor of how unlikely we considered that event in the first place. No one is wrecked by the fact that it's snowing in the winter, because we've accepted, and even anticipated, This turn of events. What about the occurrences that surprise us? We might not be so shocked if we took the time to consider their possibility. November 23rd. Attachments are the enemy. In short, you must remember this, that if you hold anything dear outside of your own reasoned choice, you will have destroyed your capacity for choice. Epictetus, Discourses, April 4, 23. According to Anthony de Mello, there is one thing and only one thing that causes unhappiness. The name of that thing is attachment. Attachments to an image you have of a person, attachments to wealth and status, attachments to a certain place or time, attachments to a job or to a lifestyle. All of those things are dangerous for one reason: they are outside of our reasoned choice. How long we keep them is not in our control. As Epictetus realized some 2,000 years before de Mello, our attachments are what make it so hard to accept change. Once we have them, we don't want to let go. We become slaves to maintaining the status quo. We are like the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland, running faster and faster to stay in the same place. But everything is in a constant state of change. We have certain things for a while and then lose them. The only permanent thing is prohairesis, our capacity for reasoned choice. The things we are attached to can come and go, our choice is resilient and adaptable. The sooner we become aware of this, the better. The easier it will be to accept and adapt to what does happen. November 24th. Train to let go of what's not yours. Whenever you experience the pangs of losing something, don't treat it like a part of yourself but as a breakable glass, so when it falls you will remember that and won't be troubled. So too, whenever you kiss your child, sibling, or friend, don't layer on top of the experience all the things you might wish, but hold them back and stop them, just as those who ride behind triumphant generals remind them they are mortal. In the same way, remind yourself that your precious one isn't one of your possessions, but something given for now, not forever. Epictetus, Discourses, 3.24.84, 86. At a Roman triumph, the majority of the public would have their eyes glued to the victorious general at the front, one of the most coveted spots during Roman times. Only a few would notice the aide in the back, right behind the commander, whispering into his ear, "Remember, thou art mortal." What a reminder to hear at the peak of glory and victory. In our own lives, we can train to be that whisper. When there is something we prize or someone that we love, we can whisper to ourselves that it is fragile, mortal, and not truly ours. No matter how strong or invincible something feels, it never is. We must remind ourselves that it can break, can die, can leave us. Loss is one of our deepest fears. Ignorance and pretending don't make things any better. They just mean the loss will be all the more jarring when it occurs. November 25th. Funny how that works out. As for me, I would choose being sick over living in luxury, for being sick only harms the body, whereas luxury destroys both the body and the soul, causing weakness and incapacity in the body, and lack of control and cowardice in the soul. What's more, luxury breeds injustice because it also breeds greediness. Musonius Rufus, Lectures, 20.95.14, 17. Stories about lottery winners tend to share one lesson: suddenly coming into a great deal of money is a curse, not a blessing. Just a few years after they get their big check, many lottery winners are actually in worse financial shape. They've lost friends, they've gotten divorced. Their whole lives have been turned into a nightmare as a result of their obscenely good fortune. It's like that Metallica lyric, fittingly from a song called No Leaf Clover. Then it comes to be that the soothing light at the end of your tunnel is just a freight train coming your way. And yet the most common response from a cancer survivor, the person who went through the thing we all dread and fear? It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Funny how that works out, isn't it? November 26th. The altar of no difference. We are like many pellets of incense falling on the same altar. Some collapse sooner, others later, but it makes no difference. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 4.15. What's the difference between you and the richest person in the world? One has a little more money than the other. What's the difference between you and the oldest person in the world? One has been around a little longer than the other. Same goes for the tallest, smartest, fastest, and on down the line. Measuring ourselves against other people makes acceptance difficult, because we want what they have, or we want how things could have gone, not what we happen to have. But that makes no difference. Some might see this line from Marcus as pessimistic, whereas others see it as optimistic. It's really just truth. We're all here and we're all going to leave this earth eventually, so let's not concern ourselves with petty differences in the meantime. We have too much to do. November 27. The pleasure of tuning out the negative. How satisfying it is to dismiss and block out any upsetting or foreign impression, and immediately to have peace in all things. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 5.2 The Stoics were mercifully spared the information overload endemic to today's society. They had no social media, no newspapers, no television chatter to rile them up. But even back then, an undisciplined person would have found plenty to be distracted and upset by. Part of the Stoic mindset then was a sort of a cultivated ignorance. Publius Syrus's epigram expresses it well: always shun that which makes you angry. Meaning, turn your mind away from the things that provoke it. If you find that discussing politics at the dinner table leads to fighting, why do you keep bringing it up? If your siblings' life choices bother you, why don't you stop picking at them and making them your concern? The same goes for so many other sources of aggravation. It's not a sign of weakness to shut them out. Instead, it's a sign of strong will. Try saying, I know the reaction I typically take in these situations, and I'm not going to do it this time. And then follow it with, I'm also going to remove the stimulus from my life in the future as well. Because what follows is peace and serenity. November 28. It's not on them, it's on you. If someone is slipping up, kindly correct them and point out what they missed. But if you can't, blame yourself or no one. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 10.4 Good teacher knows that when a student is failing, the blame falls on the instructor, not the pupil. How much more generous and tolerant would we be if we could extend this understanding to other spheres in our life? To be able to see that if a friend is unreliable, maybe it's because they don't know what's wrong or because we haven't tried to help them fix their flaw. If an employee is underperforming, just talk to them or figure out if they're lacking in support. If someone is being annoying, try talking to them about the problem with their behavior, or ask yourself, why am I being so sensitive? And if this doesn't work, try letting it go. It might be an isolated incident anyway. November 29. You're going to be okay. Don't lament this and don't get agitated. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 7.43 Here's that feeling we get when something happens, it's all over now. All is lost. What follows are complaints and pity and misery, the impotent struggle against something that's already occurred. Why bother? We have no idea what the future holds. We have no idea what's coming up around the bend. It could be more problems, or this could be the darkness before the dawn. If we're stoic, there is one thing we can be sure of: whatever happens, we're going to be okay. November 30. Follow the logos. The person who follows reason in all things will have both leisure and a readiness to act. They are at once both cheerful and self-composed. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 10.12 He guiding reason of the world. The Stoics called this the logos. Works in mysterious ways. Sometimes, the logos gives us what we want, other times it gives us precisely what we do not want. In either case, they believed that the logos was an all-powerful force that governed the universe. There is a helpful analogy to explain the logos: we are like a dog leashed to a moving cart. The direction of the cart will determine where we go. Depending on the length of the leash, we also have a fair amount of room to explore and determine the pace, but ultimately what each of us must choose is whether we will go willingly or be painfully dragged. Which will it be? Cheerful acceptance or ignorant refusal? In the end, they amount to the same.